Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Hello and welcome to ForumIAS. Today is 10th June 2023 and these are all the articles that we will be discussing today. The first article talks about new metrics for assessing socio-economic progress. So far, what is the situation? We have various indicators in global level, like we have HDI, Human Development Index. We have HDI. We have multidimensional poverty index. We have multiple indices, but they are global indices and they follow similar metric for all the countries, right? So if we are going to measure, World Bank measures poverty for certain number of dollars per day, right? And it is the same metric for all the countries, but for our level of socio-economic development, if we are taking this value to be the gold standard, maybe we might not get the accurate picture of poverty in India. That is the basic idea behind this. So, we need to have our own indicators which measure our progress. That is what this paper says. Okay, so we will go in detail into the article. So why this is in news? Because Union government is assessing to discard the international data parameters. Why? Because the government thinks that these international parameters are following a one-size-fits-all approach. So these are not accurate indicators of the socio-economic progress in our country. That is the opinion, that is the current narrative of the government. So what India is doing in this regard is we are redrawing the parameters. That means we will be forming our own indices. So index, plural is indices. So we will be following our own indices so that it accommodates our national diversity and local anthropometric measurements. Generally, it is said that Indian women have wider hips. Generally, it is said that Indians develop into a shorter height compared to their European counterparts. Based on this, which are specific to our anthropometric, that is, anthro means man, metric is measurement. Our own anthropometric measurements, our own human related measurements, based on that we will be developing these indices. So Union Health Ministry, in this regard, if we see, Union Health Ministry, they have developed their own mechanism for estimating the tuberculosis burden. And recently in our ForumIAS news analysis also, we discussed that we have removed the questions on anemia from the National Family Health Survey 6. Instead, there is a new survey coming up to assess anemia. And the goal of that new survey is to see whether we can develop an indigenous system to measure the anemia burden. So, already government is taking action in this regard. So this topic is very important for the upcoming mains. There might definitely be one question related to this. So why this is happening? What are the concerns with respect to international standards? So they use a modeling procedure. It's not like international organizations have the time and resources to conduct a nationwide survey. Usually what they do is they take a sample and they will extrapolate that data to fit the entire country. Okay, and for that they use some modeling procedure. Okay, to develop or to assess the situation in the entire country. So what they are saying is that in this modeling procedure there is improper adjustments. So what happens is whenever we are doing modeling, they will model for each and every country, and as per each and every country's situation, some adjustments will be made in the data. Like there is a popular myth or reality, we don't know yet. There is normalization of scores in UPSC across optionals, say for example. Similarly, what these global measurements, global indices, while measuring them, what happens is they will do modeling procedure to normalize the score, and in that normalization process there will be some adjustments that are made. But Indian government, a paper published by the economic advisory cell of the Indian government, they are saying that these adjustments are improper. So this results in skewing up data for India. So because of the faulty modeling procedure or faulty normalization procedure, the data for India is getting skewed up, and we are getting an inaccurate representation of the situation in India. And these days there is environmental social governance norms. Based on that only investment and trade decisions are made. If the metrics themselves are skewed, then proper decisions will they be made or not? There will be skewed decision, bias towards India. Then underestimate socio-economic progress. Because of this, what happens? If we are already, we said, right, in the case of World Bank poverty, so if we are applying it to India, it is said that more people are coming under the poverty line. In India, we use the Tendulkar Committee poverty line, right? Tendulkar Committee. So, if we use the metrics by Tendulkar Committee and if we use the metrics by World Bank, there is a difference in poverty. If we use the Tendulkar Committee metrics, the number of people under poverty line are less. But if we use the World Bank metric, the number of people under poverty line are more, which means there is an underestimation of socio-economic progress. In reality, more people have come away from poverty, but if we apply the World Bank metric, it shows that even now there are more people suffering in poverty. So the government says it is an underestimation of socio-economic progress. So, and this underestimation, it will cloud the policy intervention also. Based on the data only, we do policy intervention. If it is underestimating the socio-economic progress, if it says that more number of people are in poverty, more allocation will be made to combat poverty. So there might be faulty policy interventions also. This is also a reasoning given by the paper that was submitted by the Economic Advisory Council. Even Indonesia, UK, US, they have their own growth charts. Say for example, so in 1 year of age, how much height a child will grow. At 1.5 years of age, how much height a child will grow. These and all are different in different countries. That is what the article is saying. Indonesia, UK, US, they all have their own growth charts. But why should India use the global chart, which is not very suitable for Indian context? That is also a reasoning. So what happens is, these indices, they are looking at the half empty glass, but if India comes up with their own metrics, we will look at the half full glass and it will give us enough motivation to march forward. So it is also said that if we are using WHO standards, if we are using it in developing nations like India, we are overestimating stunting and wasting cases, because typically maybe what is wasting, for that particular age, the weight is very low. But typically, Indian kids are not that fat. Indian kids don't grow up that healthy, in terms of their build. Generally, Indians are built in a petite way, right? So, if we are using the WHO metrics, we end up overestimating the stunting, wasting. Stunting is less height for a certain weight, and wasting is less weight for a certain age. But generally Indians are petite, and in that place if we apply the WHO standards, what happens is more number of children will be identified as of low height and low weight, which is not necessary, right? So we need a index that corresponds to the Indian context. That is the idea behind the new system that is being developed. So what is the way forward here? So India should engage in an informed and transparent discussion to assess whether sole reliance, if we are completely relying on these international indices, is it appropriate, or whether India specific reference should be considered. This has to be a transparent process, well informed process, and there should be a lot of discussion on this topic, right? And this is very important when it comes to addressing stunting and wasting, because it directly influences how much money is allocated towards child development, etc. Only if we have an accurate data, only if we have a very good representative data, then our policy interventions will be effective. Okay, so that is what is said in this article. To summarize it, it is saying that the metrics that are used, so the summary is given in this particular infographic. We will see that. So it says that childhood stunting, female labor force participation rate, life expectancy at birth, these are all some of the indications that are taken into consideration in the working paper, and they are saying that if we use the global metrics, it is skewing our data. It leads to underestimation of socio-economic progress. So they have conceptual mistakes, inappropriate benchmarks. These international indices make conceptual mistakes when it comes to India, and they are saying that the methodology is also improper, right? So we need an India specific methodology, India specific index. That is the summary of this article. Okay. Next article, it talks about transgenic cotton. What is transgenic cotton? Genetically modified cotton. So what is said here is that Gujarat, Maharashtra and Telangana. So central government's genetic engineering appraisal committee, what they said is, see, basically whenever a new genetically modified organism comes in, it has to be tested in the states before it is introduced commercially. So what happened is, the GEAC, Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, this is the nodal agency, they asked 4 states. What are the 4 states is Gujarat, Maharashtra, Telangana and one more state is Haryana. In these states, Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, they asked for testing of these genetically modified or transgenic cotton. For that, Haryana has given approval for testing, but Gujarat, Maharashtra, Telangana, they have refused. They have refused to give no objection certificate. So there is a Hyderabad based company called Bioseed Research India, and they have introduced a new GM cotton, that is genetically modified cotton with Cry2AI gene. And this gene, because of this, the cotton that grows will be resistant to pink bollworm. Pink bollworm is a major pest for cotton. We do genetic engineering to increase the yield, to protect against pests, etc. This particular GM cotton is to ward against pests like pink bollworm. So under the current rules, already we said that a seed must be tested in open fields before they can be cleared for commercial development. Okay, so the bioseed applied to 4 states, only Haryana gave permission. And in India, we have no other genetically modified crop except transgenic cotton. There is only BT cotton that is in prevalence today. Other than this, no other genetically modified crop is grown in India. Okay, and this new variant which has the Cry2AI gene, it is also a variant of cotton only. Okay, so what is this GEAC? This committee, it is a statutory committee. It is under the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, and it is formed under the Environment Protection Act. So for any GM crop to be released, the approval of GEAC is mandatory. Okay, so that is about this article. Next article, it is about generation of green hydrogen using seawater. What is green hydrogen? So basically, hydrogen is formed as a result of splitting of water. Okay, this process is called as electrolysis. When water is split into its constituent, it gives rise to hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, so this splitting, it takes place with the help of electricity, and if that energy is a green energy, if it is a renewable energy, then it is called as green hydrogen. In this case, hydrogen is produced using solar energy, so it is called as green hydrogen. Okay, so we will see what is given in this article. So we have to understand currently how hydrogen is produced. Then only we will be able to understand what upgrade has IIT Madras done. Okay, so at cathode, what happens? At cathode, H plus ions, that is hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions are produced. And this H plus ions, they get converted into the hydrogen gas. Okay, so this OH minus, that is the hydroxide ion, they permeate through a separator. This is the separator. This H plus cannot pass through, only the OH can pass through it. Okay, at the anode is another electrode. Here oxygen is generated. This is the basic process involved in production of hydrogen. Okay, so if seawater is used, so we already said that water is split into hydrogen and oxygen. Water is a scarce resource, right? It is a very valuable resource. If we are using seawater here, then we will be able to conserve water. But the problem is, when seawater is used, hypochlorite formation occurs at the anode. Hypochlorite, because why? Because seawater contains dissolved sodium chloride, which is salt, right? So because of the seawater, there is a hypochlorite formation at the anode. And this is nothing but salt. Anode is an electrode, right? It is an electrode. Typically, this electrolysis process looks like this. We have an cathode, we have an anode, we have the solution, and then we have the battery that is connected, which will supply the electricity, and we have a membrane through which the ions pass through. So what happens is that this electrode support material, if there is a salt formation and this salt gets deposited on this electrode, what happens? There will be corrosion, right? And when hypochlorite is produced, it will lead to corrosion. We said that because of the salt production, and if there is corrosion, it will reduce the amount of oxygen that is produced in the anode. Okay, and in seawater there are several impurities and they get deposited on the cathode. So again here also the hydrogen formation is slowed down. That is the problem. Now we have to solve this problem. What is the problem? One problem is corrosion. Another problem is there is a slowing down of reaction in both anode as well as in cathode. Here also oxygen production becomes slower, and here also the hydrogen production becomes slower. Okay, so for this problem IIT Madras have come up with a solution. So they have used cost effective components but highly efficient components. So basically the alkaline seawater is used as the electrolyzer. Okay, and there is a transition metal based catalyst. Transition metal means copper, iron. These are all transition metals which have free electrons, right? So there is a catalyst that is developed. So we already said now it slows down the reaction. So in order to speed up the reaction, there is a catalyst. Okay, so that problem is solved. Catalyst will enhance the production of hydrogen and oxygen even when impurities and chemical deposition of what? Hypochlorite deposition takes place. Right? So even despite this, the catalyst will enhance the production of hydrogen and oxygen. There will be a cellulose based separator developed, and it is a very economical one. So we already saw there is a separator. This is the separator. In this diagram, here we have the separator. Okay, so this separator will be formed by cellulose, that is plant material, and this is economical. And this separator, it is a membrane. It allows only the hydroxide ions to pass through. So that way the IIT Madras process is cost effective. Okay, and these cells have a shelf life of more than 6 months, and in this hydrogen is produced at 1 liter per hour. Okay, so what are the changes? We have a catalyst and we have a cellulose based separator to make it cost effective, and we are using alkaline seawater. So effectively the production of hydrogen is becoming cheaper and cheaper, and in future hydrogen as a fuel will become cheaper and cheaper. Okay, so that is about this article. Next article, government asks CERC. CERC is the Central Electricity Regulatory Authority to couple power exchanges. Okay, so we will see what is in the news. The entire news is summarized in this infographic. We will see that. So what it says is that we have 3 power exchanges in India: IEX, PXIL and HPX. IEX means India Energy Exchange. PXIL means Power Exchange India Limited. Okay, so there are 3 power exchanges in India. So what happens is, like in stock market, we have Bombay Stock Exchange, we have National Stock Exchange, right? And in these stock exchanges, trading takes place separately, right? Similarly, in power sector also, trading takes place in IEX, it takes place in PXIL, we have another exchange called HPX, it takes place separately. So buyers and sellers who trade energy discover spot prices, at the moment prices, separately. So the trading takes place separately. Okay, so what the government has asked is Central Electricity Regulatory Commission to couple all these power exchanges so that whatever is the price will be uniform across the exchanges. Okay, but the IEX, that is the India Energy Exchange, it says that, see, all these power exchanges are located only in India. Coupling makes sense only if there is different geographies. That is the opinion of IEX. But the government wants the CERC to couple the power exchanges so that there is uniform price discovery. Okay, so here they have given, so flip to the service levels in the power market, there will be better transparency. If the prices in all the 3 markets are synchronized, there will be more transparency and we have uniform price discovery. That means regardless of the power exchange, the price will be the same. So these are all the benefits of coupling of power exchanges. Okay, now we are seeing this body, Central Electricity Regulatory Authority, CERC. We have to see about this authority also for clarity, for our prelims purpose. Okay, as entrusted by the Electricity Act, the Commission has certain responsibilities. So it will regulate the tariff of generating companies owned by the central government. Even if the company is not owned by the central government, if they are entering into interstate electricity trade, then also the CERC will regulate the tariff. It will regulate the interstate transmission of electricity. It will determine tariff for interstate transmission of electricity. It issues licenses. It improves access to information for all stakeholders. So basically, it's a tariff regulator. Tariff regulator in simple terms. Okay. So that is the crux of this article. Last article, it says that Sri Shankar makes history with long jump bronze in Diamond League in Paris. This Diamond League is a premium athletics meet. Premium athletics meet. Okay. So Sri Shankar, here we see him. So he is a third Indian to win a medal in the Diamond League. So earlier there was discus thrower Vikas Gowda. Then we had javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra. These two Indians have won medal in Diamond League. And now Sri Shankar becomes the third Indian to win medal in Diamond League under the long jump category. Okay, so these days sports based questions are also asked in UPSC. That is why we covered this news article. Now we'll move to some questions. Right to privacy is protected as an intrinsic part of right to life and personal liberty. Which of the following in the Constitution of India correctly and appropriately imply the above statements? So right to privacy. So essentially right to privacy is coming from which article? It comes from Article 21. Because the question itself says that it is a part of right to life and personal liberty, and this right is directly indicating Article 21. Okay. Next question. Consider the following. There are some crops given and CCAA, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, has announced MSP for which of the above? Okay, so here we have areca nut, coffee. These are horticultural crops. Generally for horticulture crops, MSP is not given. So answer is we have barley, finger millet, groundnut, sesame. So answer is 2, 4, 5, 6, which is directly B. Next question. Consider the following. Which of the above spread plant diseases? Birds, dust blowing, rain, wind blowing. So whichever can pollinate, whichever can be a pollinating agent, they can also spread plant diseases. So all of these are capable of pollination, right? Rainwater, even if it flows, it has potential to pollinate, right? So all these agents can spread plant diseases. So answer is D. So that's it for today's discussion. Follow us on all these social media platforms. This is Indumati signing off. Thank you and all the best.